Mars. I decided to become an astronaut when I was 3 years old. I decided when I was 3 that I would be an astronaut when I turned 10 years old. I learned all about the planets, famous astronauts, astrophysics, science, and math in order to become an astronaut. My favorite astronaut is Neil Armstrong. He was the first man on the moon. He was brave and he had a lot of courage. He inspired me to be an astronaut. I dressed up as an astronaut for Halloween for 3 years in a row when I was 3, 4, and 5 years old. I felt like a real astronaut when I put on my official NASA spacesuit and space helmet. I felt like I was celebrating Halloween in space. I grew a lot as a child, so my mom had to buy me new spacesuits every year. We also had to buy a lot of space toys because they were my favorite. I had a special place in my room and a cubby for my toys. I also had tons of books about space and space travel. I learned everything there was to know about my future career. I made lots of trips to the Science Museum and planetariums. I learned all about constellations and meteors. I visited the museum very much when there was a space exhibit there. I even went to space camp at the museum twice to do experiments like the astronauts do in space. Every year for my birthday, I had a space theme. I had a rocket ship on my cakes. I had spaceship pinatas. I had astronaut plates and napkins. I even had real spacewalks at my parties. When I was 5 years old, my mom and dad took me to NASA in Houston for the first time. I went to a real space camp. We sat in a real spaceship. We saw astronaut food and real astronaut uniforms. They looked a lot like my Halloween costumes. We saw a video of the Challenger crash. I took a picture by the Wall of Fame with all the astronauts that have ever flown into space. It made my mom cry. She said I would have my picture on that wall one day. I went back to NASA again when I was 6. We saw new exhibits and learned even more about what it is like to be an astronaut and visit space. There were even a lot of Star Wars activities there. When I was 7, I went with my grandparents to another space center in Mississippi. We went on a tour and we saw a big spaceship made out of Legos. I figured out about this time I cannot be an astronaut when I am 10 years old. I still have to learn, but I know I will succeed in achieving my dream. I love space, and I still want to be an astronaut. I want to be the first astronaut to visit Mars. When we were at NASA, I saw scientists building a prototype of a new spaceship that will go to Mars. I hope to be on one of those missions one day. There is only one thing left to do. I need to practice in zero-gravity chamber ball and get ready for outer space. Just so I don't get space sick.